Let's call to order the Sparks City Council meeting Monday, March 18th with a roll call.
Mayor Lawson.
Here.
Council members Abbott.
Here.
Vanderwell.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Bybee.
Here.
Dare.
Good morning.
City Attorney Duncan. Acting City Manager Crawford.
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Duncan, will you lead us in the pledge?
Put your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Let's have one public comment card, Miss Chris Garvey.
Thank you. It looks like I'm probably the only member of the public that made it to the 9 a.m. meeting. I'm Chris Garvey, and I am a resident of Ward 1, and I'm also a candidate for Sparks City Council Ward 1. I'd like to speak on items 6.3 and 6.4. This is the purchase of 306 10th Street, a 1-acre lot, well, just shy of an acre, on the corner of 10th and C Street for $2.6 million. I'm asking the council to have some transparency and please discuss and share some answers to a lot of the questions that most of your residents seem to be asking when I talk to them about this. They're asking, why is the city using taxpayer money to buy a property for $2.6 million that changed ownership in 2017 for $250,000? And then again in 2018 for $250,000. And the seller, C Street Vic LLC, who exactly is this? Because nobody seems to know. During the 119th celebration, the mayor was bragging about how hard you all are working behind the scenes, and that he was just driving a developer interested in doing subsidized housing all around historic Sparks, showing them property that was available. Is the deal already done? Are we just going through the motions? Who is this developer? Now, about the house on the property, it was built in 1913. Does anyone know the history of this building? We just celebrated our history, but no one seems to say anything about this property. But not to worry. I'm sure Councilman Abbott will find out what the history is and add it to his history map after it's knocked down. When I was talking with some voters this weekend about these items, one of the gentlemen that I talked to said, you know what, let me translate this for you. The mayor and his council buddies have a sweetheart deal for their friend that's selling the land. Then they're gonna do a sweetheart deal for their developer buddy. And that subsidized housing thing, that's gonna have to change. So, you know, don't plan on any good housing for people that they can afford, because it always does. And too bad they can't find a developer to put a real grocery store down here that would actually help the people that don't have cars and can't afford to shop at their, AM, PM. It's pretty sad that this is what your constituents actually think and feel about this. The city needs to start embracing transparency. They need to start sharing more with their constituents. And they need to start providing training not only for their staff, but for their electeds. Because with the exception of you, Councilman Anderson, and I congratulate you, the other two councilmen up for election have been in front of the camera every chance they can get to promote themselves and their accomplishments using city resources paid by taxpayers. It's time for Sparks to do business differently.
All right, anyone else in the public wishing to speak at this time? Come on up, Andrea.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. Andrea Pilto, for the record. I only heard the tail end of that, but actually, the first thing I was going to say was I was going to thank you for using Home Means Nevada funding to purchase that property and build what I'm now referring to as attainable housing. Because again, I realize affordable is not a great term because, I might not be able to afford what you can afford. But, everybody should be able to attain housing because it's, so important to their health. Then I was also going to speak, and I'm not sure who knows, but I wanted to let you know that I stepped down as chair of the Sparks Senior Advisory Committee. So Marcy Cooper-Smith was elected to fill the chair position. Kim Spoon was elected to fill the vice chair position. But then, as most of you know, Marcy Cooper-Smith has decided to run for County Commissioner District 4, and therefore, according to the resolution, Kim Spoon will be the acting chair of the Sparks Senior Advisory Committee until after the election. Thirdly, and I didn't know who to address this to, so hopefully after the meeting, maybe someone will reach out to me. But I was at dinner with a friend last night, and I heard a very disturbing story about a Sparks homeowner that is supposedly, and I know there's two sides to every story, but a Sparks homeowner that is being harassed by a city employee. And so I believe this property is in Christopher's ward. So I don't know if it's something to speak to Christopher, the mayor, the city manager, but I would appreciate somebody reaching out and at least checking, into both sides of the story. I was told this person has already gone to the employee supervisor, and the employee supervisor totally backed up the employee. So I would just like somebody to check into it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrea. We fill out a card for us, please.
Yes. I
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wishing to speak at this time? All right, bring it back to the dais. I'm looking for an approval of the agenda. Mr. Anderson,
I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Mr. Abbott,
Second.
got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right, 6.1, review, discussion, and possible direction to the city manager regarding the proposed City of Sparks capital improvement plan for fiscal years 25 through 29. Brian.
Okay, good afternoon, Mayor and members of the council. Brian Kaysen, Capital Projects Manager, here in front of you once again to present the proposed fiscal year 2025 capital improvement plan. As I've said in the past, we have three other presenters to help me out today. The first one being Amber Sosa, the Transportation Manager, Rob Beadart, our new Utility Manager, and Rich Brown, our IT Manager. We have an overall total proposed fiscal year 2025 CIP plan of just under $40 million. Before we jump into the funds, I just want to reiterate this year, it's a year-round process that we're constantly working on. We're constantly having collaboration with other departments, just trying to do the best job we can, being fiscally responsible and proactive, and being good stewards of the community. And I want to thank everybody that's involved in this process because it is a tremendous amount of work. And then just reminding you of the implementation of the comprehensive plan is integrated with the CIP and how the CIP supports that plan. We've got projects every year along Victorian Avenue trying to maintain the streetscape areas of Victorian, the amphitheater project, the forecourt project, the projects out at Golden Eagle maintaining the turf, and then, of course, all these culminate into providing for the goal in that comprehensive plan to maintain or as necessary, upgrade the condition of city-owned facilities and infrastructure while maximizing their utilization. And so I just wanted to bring that up and remind you all of that information. With that, I'll bring Amber Sosa up, and she's going to start off on the transportation fund.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, Mayor, members of council. Amber Sosa, Transportation Manager. As introduced, we're going to kick it off with Fund 1401, our transportation fund, also called our road fund. This fund is mainly supported through fuel tax and franchise fees, and we have just over $4.9 million of projects planned for fiscal year 25. Before we get to jump into the exciting details of the projects, we like to give you an overview of where our streets sit currently. The graph you see on your screen is the City of Sparks average PCI. To remind yourself, PCI is pavement condition index. So that is an analysis of the roadway section from 0 being as bad as you can imagine to 100 being a perfectly paved street. And City of Sparks streets are sitting at an average of 81 PCI for this year. We use that PCI to group our streets into 3 kind of main categories. A PCI of 0 to 50 would put that street in the rehabilitation category, meaning we need to completely remove and replace that street. A PCI of 51 to 64, puts that street in a corrective category, meaning that it could require some large patching and would definitely use a preventative maintenance wearing course over the top. Streets in our PCI grouping of 65 to 100 are generally our streets that are in better condition, and we look to provide preventative maintenance for those streets to protect that infrastructure. Those groupings are important as we plan budgeting. You'll see the graphic to your right shows kind of a general cost. So those streets falling into rehabilitation costs are looking at approximately $13 per square foot, where corrective and preventative streets are falling more in that $1 to $3 price per square foot. And then an overall roadway breakdown, we have approximately 74% of our streets in that higher category, that preventative maintenance. We have approximately 18 in that middle corrective type category, with about 8% of our streets falling into the rehab category. So we take the analysis of the PCI one step further, and we break our city into 5 areas. This is important because our areas are experiencing different levels of growth. We'll see a lot of our new streets coming online in areas 4 and 5. Areas 1 and 2 usually represent some of our older infrastructure, and area 3, also nicknamed our industrial area, is a lot of our industrial streets, which is maintained by the RTC. So the graph to your right, you'll see, unfortunately, this is not a new thing, is that we are continuing to see declining PCIs throughout the different areas. Now, one thing that came to our attention this year is that the RTC has changed the way they collect their PCI data. They went to an automated method versus our type of visual manual inspection. And as we work through the bugs and work with the RTC, we were noticing that some of their streets were anywhere from 1 to 5 PCI points higher, with no work actually being done on them. So we took this analysis one step further, if you'll see the graph to your left, and took out all of those RTC streets. Not because they're not ours, simply that they're not being used right now for budgeting. The RTC is the ones maintaining those. So I purposely scratched out the numbers so that you could just see, taking out the RT streets, what those PCIs went. So you see in area 1, we went from a 76 to a 72. Area 2, you can see we went from a 79 down to a 76, and so forth. So to give you kind of a cost breakdown, again, using those numbers, you'll see that our overall streets that we are responsible for and trying to build into these budgets are there on your right, and a cost, should we have just an open checkbook. One further thing before we get to jump into projects is just to give you an idea of where this fund is sitting. The graph to your upper left, you'll see that green line is the revenue for this fund. Again, that's mainly gas tax and franchise fees. So you'll see over the last few years that revenue source has stayed continually flat. The 2 lines below it in red and orange are 2 of our most major expenses for this fund. The orange at the bottom being our roadway maintenance personnel, and the expense in red is our rehab cost per square foot. So where these lines meet isn't necessarily the point of this graph, but simply that one is remaining flat, our revenues, and our costs continue to go up. The graph to your bottom right is showing kind of the same thing, just in a different format, with that green line being our budget that is available for these road projects. So that does continue to trend down, and our expense, again, that cost per square foot when we get our streets into the rehab category, continues to grow. Okay, now the exciting part. In fiscal year 25, we have one neighborhood roadway rehabilitation program. You'll see the map to your right. You'll notice that Prater is down to your bottom, and this is near Kate Smith Elementary School near Rock and Sullivan. The streets we intend to include are there in red, and this unit has an average PCI of 38. I know sometimes those numbers don't mean anything to me, so I wanted to show you guys some pictures. With these type of projects, we will completely rehabilitate the roadway section, and we'll also field evaluate any curb and gutter, sidewalk, or driveways and include those. So these are 3 pictures that are from that project currently. Those next 2 categories for corrective and preventative maintenance, this is an overall map for the whole city. I apologize for it being zoomed out, but we really wanted to show you that there's numerous neighborhoods throughout the city. That blue patching that you see towards the north, that is our corrective, where the red is our preventative maintenance, and that's slurry. We will walk through these neighborhoods fairly quickly. Our patching project, our corrective project this year is out in the Wingfield Springs area, defined by those streets in blue. You see Wingfield Springs Road to your right. One of our slurry neighborhoods is along Stonebrook Parkway. You'll see La Posada just to your north. What we're calling our Kylie Ranch North area, you see is just south of Kylie Parkway, and this is just south of Bohatch and Sky Ranch schools. This is what we're calling our Vintage Hills area. If you see down to your bottom right, you'll see just a glimpse of Sparks Boulevard, and this is just sitting east of Vintage Hills Parkway, west, excuse me. What we're calling the DeAndrea area, towards the bottom right of your screen, you'll see this is just where DeAndrea and Gino Martini Parkway meet, and it's the neighborhood just to the east. This is our Bering area. To the left of your screen, you'll see Sparks Boulevard in Bering with Reed High School, and you'll see the neighborhood there to the right. And the McCarran area, so this is a collection of some of our streets just more in that inner core, and you can see those defined in red there. We also have a series of annual safety and pedestrian programs that are included in this fund. One of those is our sidewalk rehabilitation. So that amount does support our rehab projects that you just saw, as well as additional projects to help sidewalk and pedestrian connectivity. We were successful at receiving a TA set-aside grant. It's a transportation alternative set-aside grant that's about to come before you for $400,000 of upgrading pedestrian ramps to make them ADA accessible. So this program and ours provides the match for that. So those are usually a 5 to 10% match. We also combine this with our traffic calming program, with a program we have that allows residents to submit needs for traffic calming in their neighborhoods. And the picture that you actually see to the bottom was a combination of both of those projects. This is the new pedestrian crossing out on Wingfield Hills Road that was supported through a TA set-aside grant that originally came to us through the traffic calming program. We do also continue to work with our maintenance teams for traffic sign rehabilitation, as far as checking their reflectivity and their safety, as well as traffic signal infrastructure throughout the city. With that sidewalk component in mind, we worked with our utility division team. They have a sanitary sewer project that you'll hear a little bit more about in a couple slides. And while they were out there, we found that this was a good chance to pair up with them and address some pedestrian needs in the neighborhood and just maximize the efficiency of getting one contractor out there. So we will be looking at doing sidewalks and pedestrian ramps in that same neighborhood with that project. We continue to work with our community development block grant program. I apologize that you have seen this slide now 5 times, but we are getting towards the end of the phases that you see here. And to remind you, those phases are simply numbers that we work with depending on how much money and time we have to spend that money. They're not necessarily in order. But we continue to work through this neighborhood. This is near the Sparks High neighborhood. And in the past, these type of improvements have included sidewalk, driveways, road rehab. It's simply a function on field walking it to see what we need and how much money we have available. This year, we also intend to continue our collaboration with the utility department and the drainage and roadway improvement program. These are streets that are selected for their deteriorated curb and gutter. Basically, we are having trouble getting water off of the roadway because it is so deteriorated. This project has been very successful. As you can see in this graphic, all of the black streets are streets that have been done in the past through this program. And then the colored are our plan for the next 5 years. And we'll zoom in just a little more. In fiscal year 25, we're intending to go north to M Street. So it'll be M Street from Pyramid to First. I would tell you how bad it is, but I figured I'd just show you some pictures there to the right. So you can see that this street is holding water. We're not able to get the water off, and it is causing deterioration of the curb and gutter, roadway, and sidewalk. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions now or later. If not, I will turn you over to Rob Bedar.
Spivey.
Thank you, Amber. Always very thorough, and of course, the graphics and the pictures are amazing but sad of the deterioration. And I know the last two winters, last winter especially, and now we've had a little bit this winter, have really taken a toll on all of our roads. I think I've asked you this before on how do we even allow for that, because you've got potholes in new roads. And I guess to that point, my question was, on Stonebrook, you've got scheduled corrective action, and that's in my ward, and that's brand new. So what corrective action? I can't imagine why. Explain to me what we've got going on there, because that's the newest neighborhood in our city, and we need corrective action on those roads already.
No, absolutely, a great question. So Stonebrook was actually, and I said I can flip back to it, Stonebrook is one of our areas for preventative maintenance for slurry seal. So industry-wide, typically you'd like to put a slurry seal down on a new road 3 years. When it's first paved, within 3 years, you'd like to get that wearing course on the top. Again, so the traffic is wearing that off versus wearing our roadway section. So with the newer roads, you'd like to get it on within 3 years. And then typically an industry standard is every 7 to 8 years after. You'd like to provide that preventative maintenance. Again, that wearing course, allow the traffic to wear that off versus deteriorating the roadway. So yes, this is a newer section. We're balancing taking care of our old streets while also protecting our newer investments. And so a couple of those are on this list for that reason.
Okay, so it is preventative, and in the long term, obviously, less wear and tear, less costs, like anything, if we can be preventative at the end of the day, that's obviously a better fiscal decision, so.
Yes, if we can
Thank you.
keep those streets in that preventative category, or we're
Okay.
looking for the $1-ish range for square foot.
Okay.
When they start deteriorating down to corrective, we're looking at about $3 a square foot. And when we call it losing the road, when we get it into that rehab category, you're looking at $13 or more per square foot.
Wow, okay, thank you. That explains it for me.
Mr. Anderson?
Thank you for the presentation, Amber. And would you do me a favor, for those that may not be familiar with the PCI or the Pavement Condition Index, would you explain how that number is determined?
Absolutely. So all of our streets are on a 3-year rotating cycle, which means every street will be evaluated at least once every 3 years. And we work with a consultant, and they actually go out and physically inspect the streets. So based on what they see, if they see large cracking where it's opening, they see an alligator cracking, which would be more smaller cracking that's widespread, vertical deflections, all of that is input into our program. It's a paver program through Colorado State that the entire region does use. And it uses those to justify what the PCI condition is. Now, PCI is not the only thing that we use. It's kind of our starting spot. Okay, we have an issue. We also go out to evaluate the curb and gutter, the sidewalk, everything, that allows people to move by car or by foot. And that's how we justify what neighbors we're going to. But that PCI is just a look at the asphalt and what's happening on and underneath.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Abbott?
On the M Street, on the eastbound one, I see the asphalt. I know we have, I think, some root problems right there. How do we address that so we don't have an issue in the future?
Absolutely. So what you're seeing on the sidewalk there with that asphalt is exactly that. We had potentially a complaint, or somebody was driving by and we saw an unsafe surface. So we'll pull out the concrete and we'll put an asphalt kind of as a temporary fix until we can get here. Once we get here, there's a variety of tools we can use. One is removing the tree. We can work with the homeowners. A lot of times they actually do want them removed. Otherwise, we can get our arborist involved. We can figure out if we can cut the root and save the tree. We have sidewalk plates. There's a variety of tools. We just use the asphalt as the temporary condition until a project comes through and fixes it permanently.
Gotcha. So the goal would be once this project's going on, we'll put new sidewalk there and it'll be looking good as new and hopefully not have a root problem in the future.
Yes,
Cool.
absolutely.
Thank
We
you.
would replace that with this project. You're welcome.
Just real quick, if you don't
Go
mind,
ahead.
is are we working with RTC to align our numbers? So, or are we just going to do our own equations? And I say that tongue in cheek. I obviously think they should align with what they're doing. If we just changing the thing doesn't make it look better. So for RTC's sake, how's that balancing?
No, absolutely. So we work with them monthly with our pavement preservation program to work on not only what streets they're going to work towards later, but how we're collecting the data. And we have been working with them. We're showing them what we're seeing. There was an issue with how their automated project was seeing slurry seal and whether it was weathering or not. So yes, those are absolutely, we're working together to figure out which one is correct and which one we should move forward with. So absolutely.
Anyone else? All right, thanks, Amber.
Good morning, Mayor, members of the council. Rob Beadart, new utility manager. I'm going to be presenting to you the sanitary sewer storm drain enterprise fund. These are connection fees and user rates. And these funds are 1631, which is sewer, 1641, which is storm water, and 1651, which is effluent. The first project here is a construction project that we have for sewer. It is Quail, Boise, and Greenbrae. It's located within the McCarran Circle, west of Probasco and north of Greenbrae. It is a sewer interceptor upsizing project that we have going forward. This project is coming back to you. It was originally in FY24, and as Amber showed, our construction material costs are increasing, and so we're also adding surface features such as curb, gutter, sidewalk, and expanding the asphalt replacement in this area, as she said before. And same goes for this next project, which is a construction project, which is Springland to Montezuma. It is bounded by Reed to the west. North is Shadow Lane, and south is Bering Boulevard. This is a sewer main upsize project that we have through this residential area. And again, we're bringing this one forward to you from FY24 as a reallocation due to material costs and also the increase in the scope of work. Our next project is a 1631 and 1641, which is a sanitary sewer and stormwater project design. This is C Street from 20th to 15th. It's a sewer and stormwater potential replacement, maybe some rehab portions of maybe a CIPP or point repairs. This project is, if you can see, is kind of, the picture to the left is a picture of a point within that red square of a point location that has boulders in it. And as you see at the top of the pipe, if I can get you can see at the top of the pipe, you see some structural failure in the pipe. Now, we have localized flooding on 18th Street that we are trying to do a spot repair in that location. And these are kind of conditions that we are seeing throughout this location because of this is the older part of town and undersized piping. Okay. Go ahead.
How do those boulders, is that just falling in? Like, how did that get there?
Councilman Abbott, that is a very good question. We have no idea how they It could be anywhere of kids throwing boulders into the manholes or some of the DI's grates being undone. But yeah, it's interesting to see size boulders in pipes like that. And of course, that's an 8-inch line that we're seeing in there. Okay. I'm going to show you guys a video. So this is one of our 3 annual sewer project programs. This is our manhole rehab. So what I showed you is a before picture, a video of manhole and the infiltration of groundwater into our manhole. The picture to the left is actually the after picture, after we did the manhole coating. And you can see how much groundwater we are getting into our manholes. And this eventually ends up at our Tumworth plant, which takes away from our capacity. We have approximately 8,000 manholes within the city limits. And we have, with this project, we've done about 120 manholes. And that has reduced our infiltration by about 500,000 gallons per day. The other two storm sewer programs that we have for annuals are our spot repair and our cured in place pipe, CIPP, otherwise known, lining projects. The picture to your left is a spot repair that was brought to our attention from our public works crews. This is in a residential area, actually a back lot point, and we are losing the bottom of our pipe. So these are situations with our spot repair that we will be doing. We are actually coming forward in the March 25th meeting for our spot repair program that we have just bid. As you see to your right, you'll see the top picture, which is the before picture of a sewer line that we did cured in place, CIPP. You can see the degradation of the pipe. This is a concrete pipe. You can see all the rocks. At the bottom, you can see what the lining coating looks like afterwards. Our next project is our stormwater program projects with 1641. What we are proposing on this project is our replacement of our pump station, which is our Sparks Marina Emergency Dewatering Station. It is located in the southeast corner of the marina. The picture to your right is kind of a back picture of our floating pump station, which is they're also known as the hurricane pumps. These pumps are utilized during storm events to bring our marina down about approximately a foot to give storm capacity for bypass. As you can see to the left, you can see a closer picture of the pump station. We are having mechanical problems on one of our pumps, and we are also starting to see failure in the barge. Next is our sanitary sewer master plan update and our stormwater master plan amendment. As you look at the picture to our right, that is a picture of our stormwater pump station controls at the end of Prater Way and Vista that was recently ran over and we had to repair. So what we're looking at in the sanitary sewer master plan is to update our operations and maintenance plan and recalibrate our sewer model. We're in hopes to come forward with a 5 to 10 year CIP plan for prioritization, so for future 5-year plans, and then also to come up with an asset management list and replacement values for such incidents as this. The next project is our stormwater project, which is a plan amendment. We have this project going forward right now, but we are going to be changing the criteria on the work provided by the consultant. Again, we're going to be looking to get a 5-year to 10-year plan in place and then come up with our asset management list and values for replacement. Next enterprise is our 1651, which is the effluent. And we are going to be doing an effluent system management and master plan update. As you see to the right, you will see a picture of our GURP effluent tank, which right now we have dewatered and we're actually cleaning out. We are looking at doing a coating and structural repairs on this project come in November. As you look to the bottom, this picture to the left, which is one of our sewer effluent meter stations, we're actually coming to the end of the life cycle on a lot of this equipment. They've been in for about 30 years, a lot of them, and So we will be replacing some of those as we come forward with some of the projects. This is what we are looking to figure out through our 5-year and 10-year plan from this master plan. And lastly is our river flood fee. So you have seen this picture to the right, which is above Hug High. And that is the dam that's located above the new Hug. And to the left, you will see the overflow spillway. In FY '24, we actually brought forward to you guys a metering release feasibility study, which we are currently underway with. This year, we are bringing forward a Sun Valley and Spanish Springs structural assessment of this dam. And as you look to the pictures to your left is the actual overflow. These are conditions that we're looking at trying to repair. We have failures of the slope. If to the bottom left, you see the debris that's sitting down in the bottom of the overflow. So these are projects that we want to come forward with our structural assessment. And with that, I will answer any questions and that you may have.
Questions from the council? Okay, thank you.
I will hand it over to Brian Kaysen.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Amber. We're going to move on to our Fund 1404, our Capital Projects Fund. This is a fund that's typically funded by way of a 2.5% general fund transfer as outlined in fiscal policy number 3. With upcoming fiscal challenges, our chief financial officer outlined at the recent budget workshop, this general fund transfer is proposed to be reduced to 1.4%. While this reduction in budget is not sustainable on a regular basis with facilities continuing to age and project costs rising due to inflation, you will see in the following slides, staff is presenting the highest priority projects that meet the proposed budgetary needs and still work towards maintaining our facilities to the best of our ability. There's 2 other parts to this fund, the Fund 1404B and Fund 1404C, which is IT hardware and software, and Rich Brown will be presenting that in a few moments after I go through some of the projects that we're looking at in Fund 1404. And as I've stated in the past, we are highlighting some of the main projects, but if there's other projects that you have questions on that are within the plan that you have, we certainly can answer those questions. So first of all, jumping into this, we've got at Alf Sorensen our HVAC replacement, and this is for designing a replacement system. The current system within the gym area has reached the end of its useful life, or is close to that, so we're wanting to make sure that we're staying on top of that. We've got the City Hall foyer and entrance repairs. Here at City Hall, we have some leaks, we have some cracks in the concrete, some unsafe situations that we really need to address, so we're gonna look at working on those this coming fiscal year. And then lastly, on this sheet, we've got the police department entry, which is a similar to City Hall, where we've got a leak that has continued to cause issues over at the main entrance to the police department. And so we're looking at replacing the gutters, replacing handrails, looking at some concrete repairs. And then over at Fire Station 1, with recent hiring of more women within that facility, we are looking at expanding the restrooms, going from 1 restroom to 3, which is going to go a long way to help out in that facility. We've got Fire Station 1 boiler replacement. That's designing for future boiler replacement. That's the original boiler from that back in, I believe it's 1981 when this building was built, and it's plugging away, but it's it's time to replace it. And then lastly on here, the Fire Station number 4 drainage repairs. We've got some issues with just some of the drainage is draining back towards the building, and we don't want that to cause future issues that are even larger than what they are right now. And then with that, Rich Brown will come up and tell you what he's got planned in IT.
Thanks, Brian. Good morning, Mayor, members of council. I'm Rich Brown, your IT manager for the record.
and I'm here to bring the CIP update for IT. So as in years past, I'll give you a quick update of where we sit with this fiscal year. Starting off with major systems, the biggest project we have going by far is the replacement for the police department's computer-aided dispatch system, which is a fairly large regional project, and that kicked off in November and is proceeding along well at the moment. We also recently completed our multi-factor authentication program throughout the city, and we're now looking to expand that out to other systems. Now that we have it in place, it's easier to put into place on other systems. And we have a pilot currently rolling at the police department, which is going fairly well, not without wrinkles, but it is progressing. So I'm happy to report that. And also we have a significant expansion of the camera system this year out at fire stations 2, 3, 4, and 5, which finally got rolling due to the fact that some of the supply chain issues that we've seen over the past 4 to 5 years have finally begun resolving. A little bit more on that in a bit. Moving on to the hardware and infrastructure side of things, cloud migration is continuing as well. When I last brought this presentation before council, we had engaged a third-party consulting firm to just evaluate and assess how we were doing things and if we were doing them correctly. One of the things that came out of that was recommendation on how we could better implement securing those systems. And that re-architecture, so to speak, was completed last fall. So we are once again full steam ahead on that. The hardware refresh that was completed this year, in addition to the usual desktops and printers, that sort of thing, was a significant firewall investment, replacing all firewalls throughout the city. And that completed without incident early last fall. So happy to report that. Just as a quick reminder, of all the 600 to 650 devices we employ throughout the city, they all come with this basic complement of software. Obviously, first, Windows operating system, which is needed for everything. Office 365, the productivity suites with both the full desktop installations as well as the web-only tools. Arctic Wolf, our intrusion detection system, and CrowdStrike, which is our next generation antivirus. Quick little note on these. I believe next year we are going to be signing a new agreement with Microsoft, so I expect these numbers will change a little bit. I don't think it'll be as bad as it was in 21, where we saw an 18% jump, largely as a result of COVID, but I have budgeted an additional 15% just in case. And a quick reminder of where IT is funded from, specifically for the CIP, out of funds 1404B and 1404C. In years past, has largely been a combination of general fund transfers and marijuana business license fees. This year, it'll be 100% out of marijuana business license fees. Total cost of which is $268,000. As you might guess, this is a rather light year. Going into major systems, $193,000. And for hardware, $75,000, which basically is incidentals. More on that in a little bit. So what we have going for major systems in fiscal 25, ongoing traffic management systems update, which is largely physical controllers out at all of the traffic systems. Continuing our migration to the cloud is next up to that. And I'm hoping this time next year, I can present a completed state of that particular project. Time will tell though. And of course, the computer dispatch project, which was kicked off, as I said, in November with a 24 to 27 month time frame, which puts us to go live sometime in winter, spring 26. And I'll update as we proceed throughout that. Going into the future years, financial system is going to be one of the big projects that will come down the pipe, and that is largely because we were notified by the vendor of end of life. Coming in December 24. That doesn't mean the system will cease to work. It just means they will stop developing the system we're currently on. So we're looking to start a project to begin the analysis to replace that system sometime this fall, and then get a better dial on exactly where we're going to go with that. And the timekeeping system we're also looking at replacing, since the existing product the city uses is a product called NovaTime that was purchased by a bigger vendor by the name of UKG, and they've been encouraging us to step to their personally developed or professionally developed project out of their group. Getting a little tongue-tied there. And that covers major systems. Quick little aside, some of you are aware, there's going to be a new IT department being formed, and that really is going to bring under one umbrella four previously kind of siloed and fragmented groups from City Hall, Police, Fire, and TUMWRF. Because of that, because of the way those groups have kind of operated somewhat independently, there's been some significant challenges over the years. A lot of duplication of efforts, some inconsistent application of policy, which has thrown in some difficulties in the fact that, specifically in the area of security, it's kind of difficult for us to secure something we don't know exists. So those kinds of issues. As we go into this new structure, there's going to be some challenges, chief of which is going to be ensuring cross-training is done so that all members of IT understand the city as a whole. Otherwise, we will just remain fragmented and siloed. And we also have a couple of new staff members we're hoping to bring on board here this spring, and that will help. So all of that is a rather long way to say I'm officially requesting and recommending we suspend CIP refresh for a year. We do have some work to do. And going into fiscal year 26, naturally that's going to be necessitate a little bit of rebound spending for refresh. I don't anticipate it to be terrible, but that will of course need to occur. And with that, that actually concludes the IT portion of the CIP refresh, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Dare.
Yeah, so thank you. And I definitely get there's a balance between just getting stuff and then working and getting organized. And so I understand what you're saying there and the focus of this year. However, I am concerned still about the security portion. We keep hearing about cities and public areas down south, you name it, that are getting hacked. I'm talking ransomed and you name all those things. With that said, I always have a concern when I hear we're not going to do anything to robust and keep up for a year and for different reasons, because in the end that could cost us more if we're not there. Could you just speak to that for a minute and give me some assurance? Actually, and I think this is partially the insurance that I really like, that you guys are all on one page, because I do think if you have more doors and you don't know what the other doors are doing, it becomes very crucial that you have that. But I am concerned. I very much look at what's happening. I know cities that have been struggling huge, and so I don't want to be one of those cities. So.
Sure. Good. I mean, those are very reasonable concerns. We do a tremendous amount of work in IT to bring in significant defenses so that we can mitigate most of the kind of security concerns we've seen crop up over, I'd say, the past year and a half now, specifically in the public sector. So while the refresh definitely is something we want to keep on top of, I don't believe it presents a significant threat just to delay it 1 year, because primarily what we're discussing is desktops. And the bulk of our security defenses are focused on the desktops, because that's more or less where the attack vectors we're going to see come into play. That said, all of the desktops, because of the investment in CIP over the past 5 years, has been robust. All of the desktops we currently employ and will employ through next year can maintain the security posture that we're putting into place. That doesn't mean we have perfect security. No such thing exists. So we also keep a significant amount of our time, efforts, and resources in how do we respond. As many people have seen, Microsoft, who writes most of the tools we use heavily here in the city, has recently suffered significant breaches that they cannot contain, and that's come through state actors like Russia. So while we can't implement perfect security, we're always prepared to respond.
So my final question, you mentioned iCloud. Is this something we're going to do, or is everything backed up well enough that the ransom idea wouldn't work because we have our stuff? That kind of idea? Yeah,
the backup is when it comes to ransomware specifically, that type of attack, the chief response to that is going to be backups. And we maintain 2 copies of our backup. One is a short-term window, the 14-day backup locally. And then we also maintain 90 days worth of that data in the cloud, which is completely isolated from any other system that is touched by the city for the express purpose of just keeping those pieces separate so that an attack couldn't also infiltrate its way towards the backups, which is the primary way we respond to those kinds of events.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Abbott.
I just want to give a shout out to your IT staff. You know, there's so often we see things go down and then we get a quick email saying it's down. 20 minutes later, it's up. And, you know, that obviously affects all of us at City Hall, police, fire, Tom Wharf. And so just shout out to them. I know the other day we had a phishing email and it was just nice to get that heads up. Because I knew the person and it looked like a legitimate email that definitely didn't get me and hopefully didn't get anyone else. But I just want to say thank you to them. You know, they're always working off hours too to help make sure that we're all taken care of. So just a shout out to them.
Appreciate that. I'll pass on the word.
Okay. Anyone else?
Okay,
All right,
I'll turn you back over to Mr. Kaysen.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Rich. Again, Brian Kaysen, Capital Projects Manager. We'll continue on. Capital Projects Fund 1405. This is our fund that's funded through, our project fund that's funded through ad valorem, which is essentially property tax distributed by the state. We have three primary projects that we're anticipating in this fund, and the first one's the continuation of the citywide rekeying and security improvements. We're going from building to building, trying to upgrade all the doors and locks and everything to the card readers. And then Fire Station number 1, first floor carpet replacement. That carpet's in really poor shape. It's been a long time since it's been replaced. And then lastly, the police department gym floor carpet replacement, same thing. It's in really poor shape and needs to be replaced. Fund 1402, which is the Parks Capital Projects Fund. This is broken into two separate items, first being the primary part of the fund for most of our facilities and parks, and then the second part is the Golden Eagle Regional Park Fund that I'll talk about in the next slide. But in our primary fund, we've got the Deer Park Pool Design Project to look at the pool liners reaching the end of its life. We've got the showers and the fence is starting to degrade, so we're going to do a design project to look at what we really truly need to do to keep that facility upgraded and in good shape for the community to use. And then secondly, we've got Golden Eagle Regional Park. As we know, in the years past, I've shown you this same slide, but it shows all the turf replacement that we've done in the past, what we're currently going to do, and what we're planning for the future. And so all the gray areas are the field areas that we've already replaced. And then, of course, we've got the plan here for the future fields. This upcoming fiscal year, we're looking at the outfields on fields 10, 13, and 14 on the softball fields. And we want to continue that on all these fields that haven't been replaced. Of course, they're still back from 2008 is when they were originally installed. So just trying to keep maintaining those and ensuring they're safe and last for a long time, because that's a very important facility and really contributes to the community. And then our park districts funded through residential construction tax. Those are funds 1406, 1407, and 1408. I always bring up this map just to remind you of the general location of these park districts. Of course, Park District 1 is generally to the west of McCarran Boulevard and up through Sparks Boulevard. Park District 2 is to the east of that line, and then Park District 3 is up in North Sparks. We have two projects planned, one in Park District 3, which is the Red Hawk Park Playground Replacement Project. And then down in Park District 1, we've got the Deer Park Shade Structure Play Structure Replacement Project down there. Victorian Square room tax. Recently, we've been using redevelopment area 1 funds. Obviously, that's expired, and so now we're using Victorian Square room tax to maintain Victorian Avenue and that area. The first one is the museum annex roof replacement project. That roof is very old and has been patched I don't know how many times, and it continues to leak, and so we've got to get in there and replace that roof. The second one is the same thing, train repairs. The train hasn't had any really true upgrades for quite some time, so we got to get in there and make sure that the train is maintained and stays in good shape. And then Victorian Square Public Art Program, continuing to invest in our public art along Victorian Avenue. And lastly, actually this isn't lastly, we've got one more project after this, but the West Victorian Tree Grate Replacement Project. As the trees grow, they start expanding and the tree grates lift and raise and cause safety issues. So we've got to go through and make sure that we're maintaining those and upgrading them as necessary. And the last project is actually the Victorian Square Infrastructure Section 5. I've shown you this map in the past, same thing as the Golden Eagle Regional Park. We've got all the gray areas are the areas that we've gone through and basically replaced sidewalk that's uneven. We've tried to make things more consistent throughout Victorian Square or Victorian Avenue, and then replacing the tree planters with an upgraded tree planter that has better seating and looks nicer. If we need to replace irrigation, electrical, any of those items, we'll replace them. And as you know, this Section 5, which is roughly from Victorian, where Victorian Plaza Circle comes around right here over to Victorian Plaza, we've got a lot of uneven concrete there. We've got it gated off right now for safety concerns, and so we're gonna go in there. We're gonna do some temporary items on it between now and then this project will finish it off, and we'll upgrade all the tree planters, we'll get concrete replaced, we'll do all the things to continue on with those projects and make sure it looks the best way it can, and then it serves the public the best way we possibly can. And then the last fund is the Motor Vehicle Fund, Fund 1702, also being affected by the reduced budget here in the future. We're replacing just the absolute vehicles that we have got to keep going to maintain our facilities, our parks, all the different items we have around there, our streets and roadways and utilities. And so we've got a handful of vehicles here that we're gonna be replacing from a Gator to a UTV. And I've got some pictures on the next slide, but then the fire apparatus replacement plan, we've got 3 light-duty trucks that we'll be replacing. And then here's just some pictures of some of the items that need to be replaced here in the next fiscal year. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions on the funds that I've discussed, and any of the other presenters would be happy to answer any further questions that you might have on the funds that they've presented.
Mr. Abbott?
I got a couple. So going to Golden Eagle, on the turf maintenance contract, I know that, I think it's maybe 2 years ago we started that, maybe a year ago. Have we seen an increase in the life of what we already have? Or are we, I guess, a return on investment with that?
Yes, we've had recently purchased a new piece of equipment to go out there and maintain that. We've done a lot of training for the staff. We're still short-staffed. It's hard to get out there. There's a lot of square footage, as you know, of fields. They're doing their very best to maintain those fields and make sure that they last as long as possible. I know I've been out there with my kids on the field 7 and 8 recently, and they still look really good to me. I mean, they've been doing a great job, the best they can. I mean, we could continue to do more on them, but doing the best we can to make sure those last as long as possible.
Gotcha. And I know in a lot of those parking lots, we could definitely use some large crack sealing. Just putting that out there. And I brought
Yes,
that up
and that's something that
before.
I'll be working with Amber
Yeah.
and her staff to have a plan in the future to make sure that, like she was saying, the slurry seals, the items that, I mean, it's new, it's not super old, but it does need some maintenance and needs some items some crack sealing and slurry seals to make sure that it lasts as long as possible.
I just have a couple more, if I may. On the Deer Park play structure, I actually got asked over the weekend about some improvements. Do we have a date or a ballpark when we're looking, that'll be coming, I know, back to us? Is that for the Deer Park play structure?
Oh, the Deer Park play structure.
Do we have a start date?
We don't have a start date right now, but basically right after this is
Yeah.
approved, after July 1st, Brandon Miles, our Parks Development Coordinator, will start looking at the most appropriate play structure for replacement and going through and getting that approved by the director, Parks Director, and then we can proceed on with getting that done. But hopefully, typically seems to fall in the spring of
Okay.
that following year. So spring 2025, I guess it would be.
Cool. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Dare?
I didn't see anything in there regarding some of our safety for downtown and our events, and obviously it's been a focus. And I just wanted to hear, maybe we're putting a few things on hold for this year.
The safety barricade project.
Safety barricade, keeping them up, obviously they have wear and tear to them. and I just want to make sure you have what you need.
Okay,
on
Amber
that.
will be able to answer your question on that
She
one.
always does a great job.
She's always got the answer.
Thank you, Councilman Dare. Amber Sosa, Transportation Manager. We do have some future phases of that downtown barricades project programmed. However, the large areas that we haven't completed yet are near the plaza. And with understanding that there's some upcoming development near and around the plaza, installing more now could be a throwaway cost later. So we've worked with our maintenance teams to get a couple additional of the mobile trailers. Working with them, they feel that they're in a pretty good place to host our special events now. And once that development comes in and we know more what it looks like, we'll be able to continue with that project. So if you look in the budget, we have phases planned in that in the out years, but not currently for 25.
Yeah, that's my only concern. I just wanted to hear that we're doing, if there's anything that we had major concern about or thoughts on, I wanted to hear that, because I know we're squeezing. Some things can't be squeezed, and I think that's one of them, so. But if we're good, we're good. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber.
Again, Mr. Abbott?
Sorry, a million questions today. On the train repairs, we're talking about the 50,000 would be for the, like, the roof of that, like not the actual train?
No, it's for the actual train, for that, and it is for the platform and the
Okay,
cover, I mean, just all the miscellaneous items. Maintenance has basically got a list of items that, just various items they need to do to make sure that they
Okay.
aren't leaking, getting water infiltration, whatever else might be causing issues.
got you. 'Cause I know the state owns the trains, so I was just asking about
Yeah.
that. My last question, I think, is on the bike path, do we have what section we're replacing?
For this current fiscal year,
This upcoming.
the upcoming fiscal year. So typically, we drive it, there's staff members that drive it every single year and just look at the areas that need to be addressed, that rise to the highest priority. And they also take into account, you don't want to have one little patch over here 2 miles away and then one little patch over here. It's not cost effective for the contractor, so we try and group those into smaller areas and just move from place to place each year. And so we don't have a specific area right now, but we will address whatever needs the most work in the future.
Well, I'll say the section from Rock Park to Reno definitely could use some love.
Dr. Reno, we will note that and
I'll
we
put
will
that in.
take a look at it, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? What are you looking for, chief, as far as a motion?
Yeah, basically.
That's all?
That's what we're looking for, yeah.
Okay. Well, then I'm looking for one of you to say that.
It's like Jeopardy, who can push the button the fastest?
Only if you get it right.
What is?
And this will be included in obviously, the budget book whenever Jeff brings it up for you guys for final approval here in the coming next couple months.
Coming up here next month. Who's got the Jeopardy music?
I know who's going to start singing. It'll be at the far end.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Anderson.
I move to direct the city manager to move forward with the proposed City of Sparks Capital Improvement Plan, CIP, for fiscal years 2025 through 2029 as presented.
Mr. Dare.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian.
You guys.
6.2, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a construction contract AC 6031 with K7 Construction, Inc. in the amount of $9,384,161 for Fire Station Number 6 construction project, bid number 23/24-005, PWP, hashtag WA 2024.131. Thanks, Brian.
Got to make you work for it. Oh, what's going on here? All right, thank you very much. Brian Kaysen, Capital Projects Manager, for the record. This agenda item, of course, is for Fire Station Number 6, for the contract to build a new fire station out in North Sparks. So happy to present this to you today. It's been a long road just with all the design processes and planning. It's been about 2 years now from the time we started, at least the design portion of the project, trying to figure out what we need out there. As you can see, the project's located out here just to the north of Wingfield Hills Road and to the west of Scheidbar Road. Here's an overview of what the anticipated fire station is going to look like after it's constructed, looking kind of from the southeast, and then this is looking at the front of the fire station. So 7 bids were received, ranging in price from just over 9.4 million, or just under 9.4 million to just over $10.9 million, which compares to an engineer's estimate of $10.9 million. K7 Construction was the lowest responsive bid, and as a reminder, funding for this project is provided through bond proceeds that were previously approved. I would like to highlight and show my appreciation for the design team who were instrumental in advancing this project through the bid process. While there were many more members involved, I want to thank specifically TSK Architects, Wood Rogers, maintenance staff, fire department staff, and especially Division Chief Kevin Jacobus. He was instrumental in just coordinating with the fire department staff. There was a tremendous team effort that streamlined the design process and provided a very well thought out fire station that will benefit the community for many years to come. Upon council's approval, an estimated construction start date for this project is mid-April with a time frame of approximately 16 months that'll run us through essentially late fall of 2025. Staff is recommending that K7 Construction be awarded the project in the amount of $9,384,161. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, questions from the council? Mr. Dare.
So yay!
Yes, yay.
I do want to just for a moment, can you speak to some of the new practices, technology and things? I mean, I've seen some of the different things that have come out recently to keep our firemen and women safe from the contagions that they get and how that worked. And I know that some of our other places we've tried to retrofit to adapt, obviously, but we get to walk into this doing it exactly how with our best technology today.
Yeah, I think Kevin Jacobus would be able to answer your questions.
Sure, I'd be happy to answer that. Kevin Jacobus, for the record, Division Chief in the Fire Department. This fire station, I could tell you, we started around, I think it's 2018, when we really started looking at it. We kind of drove through all of our fire stations, what works, what doesn't work, from fit and finish to materials to functionality to safety to diversity of workforce. It's all encompassed in this fire station. I will say on the record, this will be the nicest fire station in Northern Nevada. And I mean that in a like a positive functional way. I don't mean it with, marble fountains and granite statues. You see that in some of the fire stations throughout the US. But this one, the functionality and the safety from positive pressure on the side where our folks will live, that keeps the pressure that are in the bays where they start the fire engines up and create the diesel exhaust. They have that positive separation. I went back to Chicago with one of our other members here and kind of looked at best practices from COVID. how to keep things disinfected, how to keep things clean, how to keep people isolated and clean and functional. It's all wrapped up in here. When this project's done, it's going to be a great opening, I believe.
Thank you. But is there a long line of people saying that's just where they want to work? Is this like?
Oh, yeah. We do station bidding now. This will be the primary house.
I could
for sure.
imagine. I can imagine. Well, very good job. I know so many have worked on this for years, and I can say that. I mean, even to John Martini, to you guys. I mean, we've been screaming at you guys for a long time, longer than they probably appreciated. And thank you, truly. This is very exciting to have on our agenda today.
Ms. Bybee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, Mr. Jacobus, thank you. I really appreciate when you focus on it being functional, the functionality, and not that it's just something that's super fancy and that we're not being responsible with taxpayer dollars. And I think obviously for the safety and functionality for the department in our response times and taking care of our fire department and personnel who will be there is important, and that being a priority, as well as looking at best new practices, so it's not outdated, as soon as we open it up. I really appreciate your focus on that. And Brian, with the bids, to get 7 bids, I mean, I remember in the last few years getting bids on anything was tough because the construction industry, manning and too many jobs, and just really finding the amount of companies who are willing and able to do this, to get 7 bids. And the big bonus for me as a fiscal conservative is that the engineer's estimate was 10.9 million, and we're coming in at 9.3. So thank you. Thank to everyone who worked on that, your design team and everyone. It's been a group effort, and can't wait to see it open. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you. We're looking for a motion. Mr. Dare.
I'm honored to say this. I move to approve the construction contract AC 6031 with K7 Construction Incorporated in the amount of $9,384,161 for the Fire Station Number 6 construction project, bid number 23/24-005, PWP #WA-2024-131.
Ms. Bybee.
I will happily second that motion.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Yep. Pretty exciting stuff. All right, 6.3, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a grant agreement, AC 6032, between the City of Sparks and Nevada Housing Division for the purpose of providing Home Means Nevada Initiative funds in the amount not to exceed $2,621,000 for the purchase of vacant land of .964 plus or minus acres located at 306 10th Street, Sparks, Nevada 89431, and assign Washoe County Assessor's Parcel Number 032-191-17 from C Street Vic LLC. Amy Jones.
Good afternoon, Mayor Lawson and members of council. For the record, my name is Amy Jones, Housing Specialist. And Mayor, if I may, I would like to request to present items 6.3 and 6.4 together.
Please.
Staff is requesting council approval of the Home Means Nevada Initiative Grant Agreement and the purchase and sale agreement for the parcel located at 306 10th Street. As you recall, the city was awarded $1 million in Home Means Nevada Initiative funds for the purchase of vacant land in the City of Sparks. And as required by the funding, the city must obligate these funds by December 31st, 2024. 306 10th Street is located near Victorian Square on the corner of 10th Street and Avenue of the Oaks. It is just under an acre in size. It is located near dining and entertainment, bus stops, including Centennial Plaza, as well as parks and schools. Similar parcels here to the south is the Deco, and that property includes 209 units. And then here to the west is Square One, also similar sized parcel, and that has 100 units. The parcel appraised for $2,732,000. The city was originally awarded $1 million in Home Means Nevada Initiative funds. Staff did request additional Home Means Nevada Initiative funds from the Nevada Housing Division to assist with the purchase of this parcel. The Nevada Housing Division increased the city's total award from $1 million to $2,871,000. Council approved the purchase of 2026 I Street at the January 22nd council meeting, expending $250,000, which leaves $2,621,000 of available funding. And the owners of 306 10th Street have agreed to a purchase price of $2,621,000. The Nevada Housing Division is administering the Home Means Nevada Initiative funds for the state of Nevada. The council is required, or I'm sorry, the city is required to enter into a grant agreement to receive the Nevada Housing Division in order to receive the funds. The grant agreement states that the city must use the land for affordable housing, and the Home Means Nevada Initiative funding requires the city cannot pay more than the appraised value of the parcel, and based on the funding available to the city, an agreed upon purchase price of $2,621,000, this is below the appraised value. The grant agreement requires the deed be restricted through a declaration of restricted covenants running with the land. The units constructed must serve households earning 60% or below of the area median income, and the declaration of restricted covenants will require a 50-year affordability period. Upon execution of the grant agreement, the Nevada Housing Division will release the funds to the city to finalize the purchase. The purchase price is $2,621,000. The parcel will transfer to the city as fee simple title. Closing costs will be split 50-50 between the city and the seller. And as you may recall, the redevelopment agency approved the use of up to $50,000 of RDA1 funds for professional service costs related to the purchase of the Home Means Nevada Initiative parcels. The closing cost will be paid utilizing these funds. The purchase and sale agreement will expire in 40 days from the execution of the agreement. Mayor, before I present the recommended motion, I would like to bring to the attention of the council a unique situation with this parcel. There is a vacant single-family home located on the property. Should council approve the purchase of the property, staff will come back to council at the April 8th meeting to request further direction as to the disposition of the house. Next steps. Upon approval, staff will request that direction from council regarding that vacant building. Once the sale is finalized, staff will advertise a request for proposal for affordable housing projects and then bring the project's submissions back to council for final approval by council. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. The recommended motion for the grant agreement with the Nevada Housing Division for the Home Means Nevada Initiative funds is on the screen. And the next slide has the recommended motion for the purchase and sale agreement.
Okay. Mr. Abbott.
I know you just mentioned that next meeting, or meeting we'll be talking about for the house and all that, but if it's okay with everyone, I wouldn't mind giving a little 2 cents right now, if that's okay.
Talk to your lawyer.
Can I just mention about?
Yeah, you won't take action.
No. So I think about that property, I think if we could do, something, if we can do some senior housing down there, I think if we can make that target that in for our population, I think that's a population that could definitely use some housing in our downtown Sparks. And then for that house, I would love for us to find a way to save and preserve it. I don't know if we can make a couple units out of there, include something that's a win-win for all of us. So I know we'll be in our agenda today. I just wanted to put that on the record for today's meeting at least.
Okay, Ms. Vanderwell.
I don't have a question, but I'd like to say thank you to staff for working so diligently and hard on this to secure the grant funding to purchase land, because we all know that with attainable and affordable housing, in order to make these pencil, it needs to be on donated land. So I appreciate all the hard work. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Dare?
Just incredible work. And, you know, I think one of the things that I want to share, and thank you even for our public comments, that they bring up some of the questions of our community. And I think it's important that people know this is locked in of what it's going to be. And so that's secure. So whatever rumors are out there, we can squelch that and let that go. We'll be going to attainable housing. With that said, there is obviously even guidelines of what that looks like. And so I'm very excited. And one of the things that we've worked diligently as a council on is to get our city at a place that we can help our citizens remain in their homes, from senior citizens to you name it. Even some of our kids can't afford to live in our own city. And so being able to bring something to the table that is helpful, I think is fantastic. So great job as a team. I know you have a lot of people working on this. And so, but you're the one sitting here, so you get all the kudos. But
Thank you. It wasn't me.
But I'll
Solely
tell
me,
you,
not solely me.
you know, we will not apologize. I won't apologize. I won't speak for everybody else, but I think I can, for taking finances from our state or federal that want to give them to our city, that we can turn around and help and bless our citizens. Anybody who would like to do that should read a little bit more. Thank you.
Ms. Bybee?
I just have a quick question on the affordability, and you already said the 60% of AMI. When an actual project comes before us, we'll determine what those numbers look like, because affordable, and I agree, I agree fully, it really is attainable, it's workforce, it's seniors. Affordable is in quotes because most of our housing is not, and what is affordable for any one of us, those numbers differ. So on setting what those rates were, I guess maybe with your 60% AMI, you guys probably have charts and numbers of what that means, and what would be for a developer coming in with a project, they'd be able to meet that, those numbers. So we won't know those numbers until we have a project, correct?
When we submit the RFP, it will be very clear that all the units must serve households earning less than 60% or below the AMI. And I have this slide here that shows what that income level is. So if the nonprofit or developer is submitting and they have those units serving higher than the 60% AMI, it would not be eligible. So all the units have to be at 60% or below the area median income. So when you see that, it will have met that requirement, serving this income or below. You're welcome.
Okay, anyone else? I think, I continue to throw away this term of affordable housing. There's no such thing. It's subsidized or it's market rate. We can make it affordable by making it 400 square feet. So this is a great project. Very happy with this one. The price on the land, I checked it against other prices. Reno Housing Authority doing the one just catty-corner to where this property is. They bought that land 2 years ago for $2.5 million. I mean, the land, if you did the multiplication up to an acre, it's $2.5 million. I'm afraid that's the state of our city at this point, is we don't have any more land. Things are going to get more expensive. And unfortunately, we have a great influence from Story County and people moving here from California that have cash and think our housing prices are cheap. And that's too bad for us, but it's the state of where we are today. So with that, I'm looking for a motion. Ms. Vanderwell.
Thank you. I move to approve the grant agreement AC-6032 between the City of Sparks and the Nevada Housing Division for the purpose of providing Home Means Nevada initiative funds in the amount not to exceed $2,621,000 for the purchase of a parcel .964 acres located at 306 10th Street, Sparks, Nevada 89431, and assigned Washoe County Assessor's parcel number 032-191-17 from C Street Victorian LLC.
Mr. Abbott.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right, 6.4, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a sale and purchase agreement, AC 6033, providing for the purchase of the city of Sparks of a vacant parcel of .964 plus or minus acres located at 306 10th Street, Sparks, Nevada, 89431, and assigned Washoe County Assessor's Parcel Number 032-191-17 from C Street Vic LLC, not to exceed $2,621,000, utilizing the State of Nevada Home Needs Nevada Initiative funds. Any questions from the council? Then I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Abbott.
I move to approve the sale and purchase agreement AC-6033, providing for the purchase by the city of Sparks of a vacant parcel, .964 acres, located at 306 10th Street, Sparks, Nevada, 89431, in the amount not to exceed $2,621,000, utilizing Home Needs Nevada Initiative funds.
Mr. Anderson.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Amy. 6.5, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of resolution number 3438, a resolution considering a development and financing agreement, AC 6030, between the city of Sparks and Five Ridges Development Company for the proposed Special Improvement District Number 1, Five Ridges, located at 555 Highland Ranch Parkway, Sparks, Nevada, and considering respective side agreements between the city of Sparks, QK LLC, Lennar Reno LLC, Paradiso Legacy Springs LLC, and Paradiso Legacy Vista LLC for a proposed Special Improvement District Number 1, called Five Ridges. Mr. Martini.
Thank you, Mayor Lawson. And council members, I am John Martini, your Assistant City Manager. As the mayor introduced, I'm coming before you today to present Resolution 3438, which, if approved, if you approve the resolution, you would in fact be approving a development financing agreement between the city, Five Ridges Development Company, and the associated side agreements that the mayor read into the record, and I apologize for that title, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Lawson, as this process has been going on for a while, we're creeping up on 3 years here. I'm going to spend a bit of time going through the background. It's been a while since we've talked about it. Thank you, Julie. As you are well aware of, the Five Ridges project is located west of Pyramid Way and north of Highland Ranch Parkway. You can see it on the map here outlined in blue. That is the development area. Going all the way back to April of 2021, Five Ridges Development Company, on behalf of QK, did petition the city for the formation of a special improvement district. And for, in case I use both terms, special improvement district and special assessment district are one and the same. For the purposes of issuing special assessment bonds to finance on-site and off-site improvements needed to develop the Five Ridges project. Fast forward to January 24th of 2022, just about 2 years ago now, the City Council approved Resolution 3396, finding the petition for the public interest, and gave direction to the city manager to move forward and initiate negotiations of a development financing agreement to go along with that petition. Then again in March 14th of 2022, City Council approved Resolution 3399, which was the deposit agreement between the city and Five Ridges. Once approved, the developer did provide $150,000 into a special fund here at the city. Once we got that deposit, we retained professional services for the preparation of the development financing agreement, an engineer's report, real property appraisal services, a housing market absorption study, financial advisory services, and of course, bond counsel. In the ensuing time, staff and all the consultants have worked diligently with Five Ridges on all those studies that are needed, but in particular to the engineer's report and the development financing agreement. For the council's edification, the engineer's report is vital. It provides all the information you guys saw in the DFA, especially the exhibits, the assessment role, the project, how things are broken apart. Additionally, since the initial filing of the petition, QK LLC has sold certain properties. I'll turn your attention back to the map. This is a map of the same area. This is the Five Ridges development area. It is color-coded by the current owners, at least of today. That could change in the future. The areas in gray are properties owned by QK LLC. The properties in green, and on this you can see the subdivision maps the council's approved over the last 2 years up there. Those are owned by Lennar Reno LLC. The purple parcel down at the bottom there at Highland Ranch Parkway is Paradiso Legacy Springs LLC, and the yellow parcel is Paradiso Legacy Vista LLC. On September 26, 2023, so last fall, the developer approved the form of the DFA and the site agreements as initially presented by the city's bond council. However, on October 9th of 2023, the developer provided the city with proposed changes to the site agreements as demanded by the home builders. And when I say home builders, when I say the word home builder, that is Lennar Reno LLC and the two Paradiso entities. Of particular note, the home builder struck what was section 1.4 of the site agreements, which stated the indemnification provisions set forth in section 3.6 of the DFA applied to the home builders, the same as if the home builder had been named in place of the developer in section 3.6 of the DFA. That speaks to indemnification, as in the original form of the DFA, all landowners would indemnify the city for the DFA. That was, of course, proposed to be changed. Then on November 21st, 2023, after conferring with bond counsel and the city attorney's office, the city provided the developer with red lines of the revised DFA, site agreements accepting some of the changes, but rejecting removal of indemnification provisions in the site agreements. Then on January 20th, 2024, the developer, through their retained bond counsel, provided responses to the city's November 21st, 2023 versions of the DFA and site agreements. This included new red lines to section 3.9 and 3.13 of the DFA, limiting the binding effect of Articles 1 and 3 of the DFA on subsequent owners of accessible district property, and again, removing the indemnification language from the site agreements. On February 2nd, 2024, the city committed to the developer to bring the DFA forward to the city council for consideration and directed bond counsel, that's our outside bond counsel that we've retained, to negotiate the final form of the DFA and site agreements with the developers council. Bond counsel has since agreed with the home builders and developer that it is appropriate to require QK LLC to indemnify the city, but not require the home builders, that being Lennar and the two Paradiso entities, to agree to the stricken indemnification language, and has since agreed to modify language in sections 3.9 and 3.13 of the DFA, limiting the binding effect of the DFA on subsequent homeowners. On February 9th, 2024, the city received and approved the final engineer's report. We had many revisions along the way as land transactions were done. On February 20th, 2024, our bond counsel provided the city and developer the final form of this development and financing agreement, as well as the site agreements. On February 23rd, 2024, just last month, the city received executed copies of the DFA and site agreements, and that is attached to the staff report. With that background in place, I'll now provide you a quick summary of the proposed DFA. The DFA attaches Exhibit A to the resolution, so just as a matter of process here today, if you approve the resolution, you're approving the DFA and everything attached to the DFA. Just, I'm sure you got there as you read it, but I wanted to be clear. So what that DFA does is it sets the terms and conditions for the city to contract with the developer for the construction and acquisition of certain on-site and off-site improvements needed to develop the Five Ridges project. What's before you is a table that shows those projects. This is Table 2 out of the engineer's report. It is also Exhibit D to the DFA. So if you'll remember in the petition, we looked at 6 projects. As time's gone on and costs went the direction all costs have went, it is now down to 4 projects. Project number 1 is Five Ridges Parkway and Antelope Ridge Parkway. Both of those projects are complete at this time. The estimated cost is $7.9 million. Project number 2 is Highland Ranch Parkway, Phase 1. That is set to kick off here in August of 2024 and be completed in November for a cost of about $870,000. Project number 3 is the Highland Ranch Parkway Phase 2, anticipated to begin in June of 25 for a cost of $2.4 million. And then project number 4 are the water transmission mains that came from Sun Valley GID. You'll remember we reviewed all of that. Those 2 projects are complete at a cost of about $1.1 million. The acquisition cost will be financed through a special assessment bond, and the city will levy assessments against each of the properties shown in the district. Before we get there, let me just give you a quick rundown of the total costs of what is before you today. So as we reviewed, the total cost of construction is about $12.4 million. The cost to form and finance the SID is about $2.2, brings us to a total cost of $14,675,925. How's that going to be paid? It is anticipated the amount funded by the Special Improvement District, or SAD, will be $11,845,000, with the remaining $2,830,927 coming from the developer. Now back to accessible areas. The map before you is again the Five Ridges project. This shows what came out of the engineer's report. The red lines that outline each of what we now know as the village are, that will be your SID boundary. That will be the boundary of where assessments happen. And then anything in blue are the properties that are projected this time to be assessed to pay the bond off. You can clearly see on the Lennar properties, each of the individual house lots. You can see each of those to be assessed, as well as areas where we have not gone through final mapping, you just see it in parcel form. To that end, this is an example of this is right out of the engineer's report, which is actually also attached to the DFA as Exhibit G. This is an example, actually this is not an example, this is a piece of the assessment roll. What you see before you is an assigned SID number, which village it corresponds to, what the APN currently is, how much developable acreage that lot has, its land use, and its assessment amount, and then of course who owns it. So while the legal implications of the agreement are established throughout the 3 articles that embody the DFA, would you take that off the monitor, please? Thank you. I'm going to summarize the key points to the DFA. Under Article 1, construction and transfer of the project, which is Section 1.1A. The developer agrees to construct the project as presented in Exhibit D of the DFA in accordance with the plans and specifications approved by both the city and Sun Valley General Improvement District. Title 1.1B, the developer agrees to transfer title to any segment of the project to the city free of mortgage, security interest, mechanics liens, or any other encumbrance. Warranty and workmanship and materials is covered in Section 1.1C. At the time of transfer of any segment, so that means when we're going to take the infrastructure, the developer warrants that the respective segment has been constructed in accordance with the plans and specs, and the developer is responsible for a 1-year period for any defects or any changes that will need to be made. And that covers both the city and Sun Valley GID. Section 1.1E speaks to prevailing wages. As a reminder, City Council is not required to comply with the provisions of any law requiring public bidding or otherwise imposing requirements on public contracts, projects, works, or improvements, except that the provisions of NRS 338.013 to 338.090 apply to any construction work performed on any contract related to the SID. That's a lot of words to say any work that's done up there needs to follow the prevailing wage laws as set forth by the state. The developer is responsible to indemnify the city, hold the city harmless, and bear the cost of responding to any complaint, injury, or investigation initiated by a third party or the Nevada Labor Commissioner regarding compliance with NRS 338.013 to 338.090, again, prevailing wage law. City is prohibited from using bond proceeds to pay for any portion of the project that is not constructed with accordance to the prevailing wage law. City staff met with the developer and their contractor several times regarding prevailing wage compliance. It is city staff's understanding that a portion of the infrastructure work subject to the SID has already been completed. You saw that when I brought up the projects in projects 1 and 4. However, all work was paid at least prevailing wage, with the exception of work performed by members of Operating Engineers Local Number 3, or OE3 in this case. OE3 has provided a letter of understanding and separately met with city staff, indicating they believe back pay in the form of the difference between the applicable prevailing wage rate and the rate that was actually paid without payment of interest, penalties, or fees will satisfy the developer's prevailing wage obligations. The developer and the contractor have represented to city staff that back pay to full prevailing wage rates has already been paid to all workers on the project. Payment for the project in section 1.1G. City agrees to pay the developer for each segment of the project in accordance with the purchase price shown in Exhibit D. City's obligated to pay the purchase price solely from bond proceeds or from assessments prepaid prior to the sale of the bonds. The city is not obligated to pay for any segment until its full completion and accepted by city staff or Sun Valley GID. With regard to cost overruns, which is in section 1.1I, developers simply responsible for any overruns. So if anything comes in higher than what you saw and what you're agreeing to today in Exhibit D, that's going to be on Five Ridges. Speaking now to Article Number 2, the assessment bonds. Under procedure in section 2.1, the developer agrees that the city may proceed to order the project to be acquired and approved, issue bonds, and finance the cost of the project by levying assessments in conformance with NRS 271-710. Under financing 2.2, the city agrees to proceed with financing the project by levying assessment bonds against the properties in the district and issuing bonds. City agrees to proceed with a district creation ordinance, an assessment ordinance, bond purchase agreement, and trust indenture. Those are included in Exhibit F of your DFA. And finally, under assessment role, section 2.3 of the DFA, the city agrees to levy assessments against all properties in the district, and in the amount of the assessments will not exceed that shown in Exhibit G to the DFA. Then under Article 3, miscellaneous. By approving this DFA, you are not guaranteeing water or sewer service to any of the properties. That's under section 3.3. Indemnification and defense of suits is covered in 3.9 A through D. Section 3.6 A through D provides that the developer agrees to protect, indemnify, and hold harmless the city from any claims arising out of the acquisition, construction, or financing of the project, environmental or hazardous waste conditions, or C, any developer act or omission in connection with the project in the district. This includes an obligation of the developer to defend and fund the defense of any such claims against the city. These obligations survive termination of the DFA. As presented, the obligations in section 3.6 only runs with the developer and QK and will not be binding on any of the home builders or any successor owners of the QK-owned properties. Binding effect on successors is covered in sections 3.9 and 3.13. NRS 271.710 sub 1 allows a local governing body to adopt an ordinance creating a district and ordering a project to be acquired only if the governing body has entered into written agreements with all the owners of the accessible properties within the district. At this time, there are 4 landowners of accessible property in the district: QK, Lennar, and the 2 Paradiso entities. Additionally, NRS 271.720 Sub 2, Sub A requires that the DFA is binding on all subsequent owners of accessible property. As presented, sections 3.9 and 3.13 now contain language stating that the obligations within Articles 1 and 3 of the DFA are obligations of the developer only and shall not be binding upon any successors or assigns or run with the property or any portion thereof. Now moving on to the side agreements. Can I have the screen back, please, Julie? I put these in a couple of slides. These are Exhibit I to your DFA. So the side agreement with QK LLC under Article 1 Construction, QK acknowledges Five Ridges intends to enter into the DFA. QK has reviewed the final draft of the DFA that's before you today and acknowledges every provision of the DFA. However, such acknowledgement does not make QK responsible for the obligations of the Five Ridges Development Company. QK does not object to the city's acquisition and payment for the project. Under assessment, QK acknowledges the city will levy assessments against all property owned by QK in the district, and QK elects to pay assessments in installments with interest as provided in the future bond ordinance. Under miscellaneous, in Article 3 of the QK side agreement, QK agrees to the indemnification provisions in Article 3.6 of the DFA, and further agrees that said provisions apply to QK the same as the developer. However, the indemnity provisions are the obligations of QK only and are not binding on any successors or assigns and do not run with their land. Article 3 miscellaneous. QK agrees that the DFA may be amended without its consent, provided that the city may not impose any obligations of the developer or increase in assessment against any of its properties without its written consent. The side agreement with QK will terminate when all assessments against its property have been paid in full, or if the bonds have not been issued prior to November 29th of 2024. Moving on to the side agreements with each of the three home builders, Lennar and the two Paradiso entities. Each home builder side agreement is identical with what you just saw with QK, with one exception. None of the home builder side agreements identify the city. Approval of this resolution today will approve the DFA and each side agreement and authorize officers of the city to take all action necessary to effectuate the agreement. There are two alternatives before the council. The council may approve the resolution. Council may deny the resolution and provide any direction to the city manager. And Mr. Mayor, that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
All right, questions from the council. Mr. Dare.
Yes, thank you. I know we have talked about this for 3 years, and even longer, probably. And so, first, in my opinion, and I've seen this work in other places, I think SAD is a tool that will continue to help our city, and especially some of the things we'll be facing in the future. I think it becomes a win for our city. Thank you for all the information. We've had a lot of things go back and forth, and I think that's okay. I want everyone in this room to know that. And I say that from our staff to our lawyers to everybody. It's important that we wrestle through things, especially that are new to us, that we've not done, and then continue to improve upon them if there's things to improve. With that said, I'm excited to think of us being able to leapfrog, in a sense, some timing to see these roads pushed and shoved forward. If you look over at what's happening on Sparks and that Highland, that whole area, it can't wait. We need it as soon as possible, and I'm very pleased to see us be able to step forward and see that. And that's some of what these SIDs really do. That's the benefit to the city and to our public, is those kind of infrastructure shifts. Typically, we don't get to pay for those kind of infrastructures because that's not really the kind of finances we have. And so it's awesome to be able to support when developers step up and can do this in a quicker manner and get those done. So I think the dates you gave, that gives us a window of a couple of years. We'll see some of these things instead of a 10-year window or whatever population hit on their thing. Is that correct?
Yeah, as we sit today, you'll recall the 2018 development agreement the city entered into with Five Ridges Development Company. If memory serves, per the terms of that agreement, Five Ridges Development Company must have the improvements to Highland Ranch Parkway done when we hit 650 certificates of occupancy, meaning houses built, houses sold, So yes, I can understand your point,
Yeah,
Councilman. Dare.
so thank you very much. But I want to thank all the staff and thank all the conversation, and I'm excited to see things of this and in the future, this type of program work for us. So thank you.
Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. So, no question for you, John. Thank you very much for all the work on this. Obviously, years worth of work. You and staff have spent a great deal of time and energy on it, and I appreciate that. So, as everyone may recall, I actually voted against this SID when it came before us because I had difficulty believing that it was truly in the benefit of the city as a whole. However, it was approved, and it's been moving forward since then with the developer doing a considerable amount of work to the project with the assumption that the DFA was going to be approved. And with that being said, I am going to vote to approve this DFA because of the fact that, again, I believe, yes, there have been bumps along the way in the roadway here, but I believe that the city pretty much opened the door for the progress to begin on the project, and likewise, the money that's been spent on it with the assumption of the DFA being approved. So I do plan to vote in favor of this item.
You, Ms. Vanderwell.
Thank you. And I also want to extend to staff all the hard work that you've done, because I saw this in 2016 at Planning Commission, so I know it has been a long, long haul. So I do appreciate all the work and everybody coming together and work on this. I do want to say, though, that I don't want this special assessment district to set a precedence moving forward with these SIDs in the city of Sparks. So I'm hoping what we learned from this, that we can set some policy that regarding legal for DFAs and the SIDs. I just, because this moves so fast, and not really fast, but I mean, the developer was moving fast. So I think it's important that we prohibit work before a DFA is signed, and that we make sure that the entire parcel is owned by one developer, or if there are multiple developers, that we sit down and that it is clear, and that we have indemnification and also binding effect for subsequent owners that follow NRS 271. So I would just like to put it out there. I support this. I think it is a great tool for the city of Sparks and development moving forward. I would just like to see some of these policies put into policy for the next one. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, then we're just looking for a motion then, I guess, where we are. Whoa, who wrote that motion? Holy cow.
Probably the guy in front of you, I guess. Has to kind of match the title, you know.
I'll make that motion, sir.
Mr. Dare.
I move to approve resolution number 3438, a resolution considering a development and financing agreement, AC, this thing's moving on me, sorry. 6030 between the City of Sparks and Five Ridges Development Company, Inc., for proposed special improvement district number 1, Five Ridges, located at 555 Highland Ranch Parkway, Sparks, Nevada, and considering respective side agreements between the City of Sparks and QK LLC, Lennar Reno LLC, Paradiso Legacy Sparks LLC, and Paradiso Legacy Vista LLC for proposed special improvement district number 1, Five Ridges.
Mr. Abbott.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? One more comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to say that I completely agree with Councilwoman Vanderwell as we move forward, because really the indemnification was a huge sticking point for me. And I really, the city can't be responsible. And the fact that developer is the reason I will support this. But as we move forward, all the things we've learned and the work you've done, Mr. Martini, I cannot commend you enough. A lot more than a lot of us anticipated, and it is the first one we've done, and it's huge. And I think there's a lot of positives, but as we move forward, I want to take lessons learned from this experience and how we can make the next SID that happens in the city of Sparks smoother, and set some policy that I think are important to look at as we move forward.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Martini. Thank you for all your work too, by the way.
Thank you,
And
Mr. Mayor.
and Blake, thank you for working with us also. It took us a while, but we got to a resolution. Okay. Comments from the public. Anyone in the public wishing to speak at this time? Ms. Garvey, come on down.
I just want to take a moment to thank Councilwomen Vanderwell and Bybee for your insight. I hope all of these things go through and the indemnification issues don't cause an issue for us in the future. I think you are wise to put that out there, and I hope you stick to your guns to not have anything else come through till there's policy and some good protocols put in place for lessons learned, because they can be very hard lessons to learn, especially with the type of soil that is out there in Spanish Springs.
Okay, anyone else in the public wishing to speak? We'll bring it back to the dais. And announcement from the mayor, city council, city manager. Mr. Manager, got anything?
No, sir.
Council, Mr. Dare?
I just want to say that one of the things we get the honor of doing is being able to speak on our behalf to state and across the country. And Diane and I got to go back to DC. And I just tell you, some of the problems we're talking about and things we're facing, it's happening in cities all over the place, from housing to you name it. And they're things that are crucial elements and things to talk about. And so it was a fantastic time, and it was a very big learning experience. So we'll continue to try to share some of the stuff that we grabbed onto and walk forward. But it was quite a trip. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Abbott?
I just want to shout out to our Parks and Rec, police, fire, Miss McCormick for being at my alma mater last week at Sparks High School. We did a career fair. It was really cool. Without boring you too much, there was about 40 different careers that people were there, and it was neat. Fire came out, and Nancy was there as well. It's a lot of great people, but fire was out there letting the kids cut stuff and put turnouts on, and just it was a great time. I just want to shout out our staff for being there to get some great opportunities for the future generations.
Mr. Anderson?
Thank you. Just last week, I was able to attend, it was called the Water Reuse Symposium in Denver, Colorado, and spent a week looking at worldwide what people are facing as far as water supply issues, water resources, and then likewise different programs and ways of reusing the water. It was interesting to see these people from across the country and around the world talking about the same problem that we all have here in a high desert. It's the sustainability, the reliability of your water supply. And it was exciting to see, and I was just thrilled that we are surrounded by some incredibly intelligent people with Truckee Meadows Water Authority, City of Sparks, City of Reno, Washoe County, working on a program to add to the security for our region well into the future. And one of those is with the Advanced Purified Water facility that is being worked on right now. And it's just amazing that there were actually folks from around the country that came up and complimented our region on what we're doing. And it's actually going to be a state-of-the-art program that we've got here that is probably going to be copied by other communities around the country and even the world. Because of the fact that we're inland, we have challenges that if you're next to the ocean, you don't have. You can just, push off the brine into the ocean and all is good. We have to do things completely different here because we don't have the ability to do that. And so I just want to say thanks to our staff here at City of Sparks for the involvement. And overall, it's just exciting to be a part of these projects that we're not looking tomorrow, next day, but we're looking 50 years down the road. Where do we want our community to be on sustainability? And it's great to see that we're on our way. Thank you.
And we put out the cleanest water in America out of our sewer plant, Mr. Drinkwater, as I brag about every time we mention water.
That's right.
And now I'm going to direct the city manager to create a city policy on the procedures and requirements of future special assessment districts within the city of Sparks to address the issues that we would like to avoid next go around. We know how not to do it. Now we'll figure out the way that we have to do it. Thank you, sir. All right, anyone else? That is it. Happy birthday, Sparks. We're adjourned.
Elated, I know. This is